or written guidelines regarding gender diverse students, and we appreciate you all being here. I wanted to start out by saying that we're all here today because we care about the well-being of all children. The other reason why we're here today is because in May, Trustee Carolyn Edwards, who unfortunately had a family emergency and could not be here today, asked the district to form a gender diverse working group to look at the possibility of creating a written policy, regulation, and/or guidelines regarding gender diverse students. We have been very heartened in the conversations that we've had in our gender diverse working group, and you'll hear from more of them today. All of our members, regardless of their beliefs, have agreed that every child in the Clark County School District deserves a safe and respectful learning environment at every school campus. And I'm hopeful that's something we can all agree on today. We start that discussion today with that core belief. I want to acknowledge all the members of the working group. If you are on the working group, please stand up, and if you're in the audience, please stand up. Laura will be telling us a little bit more soon about the many, many hours that the folks on the working group put in. I also want to acknowledge Trustee Deanna Wright, who is here with us today. Trustee President and a wonderful leader. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to hear from several members of our gender diverse working group who are going to tell us about their process that they went through and the final recommendations that the group put forward that you all will be giving comment on today. So we're going to start with Rodney Lee to tell us a little bit more about the background of this working group.
Good morning. My name is from Senate Bill 225, which states, and respect those enrolled in schools in this state to meet this state's high academic standards. Schools in this state provide environment which persons of differing beliefs, races, religion, sexual orientations, physical or mental disabilities, sexes, or any other distinguishing characteristic or background, full academic and personal potential.
Thank you, Rodney. That's a little bit more about one of the bills that affects this issue. I want to ask now Laura Hernandez to come up and just tell us a little bit about the working group itself and the process that they went through.
Hi, everyone. I was part of the Gender Diverse Work Group team. That team was made up of 45 members. We met for 13 hours over 6 meetings, and during these meetings, we reviewed many policies from other districts and national publications, and we compiled a list of categories that could possibly be included in a policy, regulation, or guidelines based on other existing policies that we looked at. At the end of our meetings, we took a vote to decide which of these categories we would present to the public for their input. That's what you're going to be seeing today. The majority of the group voted on the recommended topics that we will discuss that could be covered in a policy, regulation, and/or guidelines.
Great. Dr. PA will be going over in a minute some of the norms of our group, but we thought since the purpose of this meeting is to give public comment on these specific recommendations that we would quickly go over them. So let's start with Amanda Morgan, who's going to read over a few of them for you.
All right, so I'm going to go through the policies one by one. These are just categories for policies. These aren't the details, but just kind of gives you an overview of what the guideline will be. So purpose statement. This would be a statement regarding the purpose, scope, and direction of the policy, regulation, or guidance document. Desired outcomes, goals, and/or objectives describing what is to be achieved by implementing a final CCSD policy, regulation, or guidance document. Let's see. Communication from the superintendent and board of trustees. Statement acknowledging the need and support for policy and training regarding gender diverse students. in support of safe schools for all students could be included in a final CCSD policy, regulation, guidance, or document. Sorry, I'm having trouble seeing these. Does anyone have a paper? Sorry. Thank you, much better. Let's see, definitions and terminology. Understanding the terminology associated with gender diversity is important to provide a safe, respectful, and supportive and inclusive learning environment for all students. This could be included in a final CCSD policy, regulation, or guidance document. Overview of federal and state law. An overview of federal and state discrimination laws and other laws that mandate safe schools for all students, inclusive of all gender diverse students. These types of laws and examples could be included in a final CCSD policy, regulation, or guidance document. Rights and protection. Details regarding specific rights and protections for students outlined in the overview of federal and state law could be included in the final CCSD policy, regulation, or guidance document. Privacy and disclosure. In accordance to the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA, all persons, including students, have a right to privacy as outlined in the overview of federal and state law. This could be included in a final CCSD policy, regulation, or guidance document. Information on student records and student information systems that could be included in a final written document. Unofficial records, including CCSD Student Information System. The district has a process that will allow a student to use their preferred name and gender on unofficial records. The unofficial records may include, but are not limited to, identification badges, classroom and homeroom rosters, certificates, programs, announcements, office summons, communications, team and academic rosters, newspapers, newsletters, yearbooks, and other site-generated unofficial records. Official records, including permanent records. The district is required to maintain in perpetuity mandatory permanent pupil records, such as transcripts, which include the legal name of the student and the student's gender as indicated on, there we go. Official government-issued documents, such as birth certificates, passports, and identification cards and permits. The district will change a student's name and gender on official records when the name of the student is changed by the appropriate court action. Someone reading the other half?
Thanks, Amanda. And I realized I should have introduced everybody. Amanda is with Educate Nevada Now, which is powered by the Rogers Foundation. Rodney, you want to come up and read the rest? And Rodney is with the school district's Equity and Diversity Division 2.
Athletics and school activities. CCSD complies with NIAA regulations related to gender diverse students. Students cannot or other documentation that is not required of all students to participate according to the 2016 Title IX guidance. This could be included in the final CCSD policy, regulation, guidance document. Restrooms accessibility. NRS 651.070 requires that students have access to the restrooms of the gender they identify with. These statutes and laws could be included in the final CCSD policy, regulation, guidance document. Professional development. Senate Bill 225 requires that CCSD personnel undergo training concerning the needs of persons with diverse gender identities or expressions. CCSD could include internal resources. Connect professionals to CCSD resources who are knowledgeable and experienced in supporting the needs of all students, inclusive of gender diverse students, and in creating safe and respectful learning environments. External resources. Connect professionals to community resources who are knowledgeable and experienced in supporting healthy growth and development of sex gender diverse students, families, and caregivers. Names and pronouns. A final CCSD policy, regulation, guidance document could specify that students have the right to be addressed by the names and pronouns that correspond to their gender identity. Locker rooms or other facilities. Procedures regarding access to locker rooms and other facilities could be addressed in the final CCSD policy, regulation, guidance document. Overnight field trips. Overnight field trips shall be appropriate for and supportive of all students, including students with gender diverse identities or expressions. Procedures regarding overnight field trips could be included in the final CCSD policy, regulation, guidance document. Homecoming, prom, and other school traditions. Homecoming, prom, and other school traditions shall be inclusive of all students, including gender diverse students. This could be included in the final CCSD policy, regulation, guidance document. Dress code. CCSD could update its dress code policy or include language in the policy, regulation, guidance document. Inclusive academic classroom environment. A final CCSD policy, regulation, guidance document could specify that the academic classroom environment shall be appropriate for and supportive of all who have diverse gender identities or expressions and shall not discriminate or segregate according to gender identity or expression. Best practices for the community. CCSD policy, regulation, guidance document could include methods to enhance a welcoming school climate and supportive learning environment, including establishing and maintaining healthy school-to-home and home-to-school communication, providing families information related to gender-diverse child development, and increasing knowledge and skills regarding gender-diverse in support of extending their child's learning at home and in the community. Supporting students, parents, foster parents, caregivers, and families in transition. CCSD policy, regulation, guidance document could include methods to support appropriate engagement of students, parents, foster parents, caregivers, and families in transition, such as creating a welcoming school climate, establishing and maintaining healthy communication, increasing knowledge and skills, and connecting persons to resources. Review and reporting. Regulation and guidance document to address requirements of changing statutes or regulations and to implement changing best practices in supporting the needs of gender diverse students and in creating safe and respectful learning environments for all students. Report these changes via internal avenues of communication and on CCSD website.
Thanks, Rodney. So those are the recommendations from the majority of the working group. Before Dr. PA comes up, I realized I didn't introduce myself either. My name's Kirsten Sear. I'm the Chief Communications, Marketing, and Strategy Officer for the school district. And I had the pleasure of helping the lady who's coming up next with this working group. She really is a mentor of mine, and I think that this working group, even though we had people from every perspective. We had some really intense conversations, but I just really appreciated that we treated each other respectfully, and we came from that place of caring about all kids. We also have Todd Story from the ACLU up here. He was on our working group. Laura Hernandez is a parent in the district, and Deborah Earle is also a parent with Power to Parent, and there are just some other people who were on our working group with us that talked about these recommendations, and they're here on the stage in case you have any questions about them as we have public input. But let me introduce to you Dr. Greta PA, who is our Chief Officer. She's chief. So here's Dr. PA to talk a little bit about norms, and then we'll get into public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Kirsten. It was a pleasure and an honor to serve on this committee, so I want to thank trustees, thank my superintendent, and just thank the community for allowing me to be a very happy CCSD employee and a very happy and active engaged citizen in the community. So I've got to set the norms, and I'm going to be very firm. I'm going to put my teacher hat on, because once you're a teacher, you're always one. So please, at the end of the day, I have my T-shirt on, be an upstander for love, kindness, and respect. That's starting the day out with the norms. So the first thing is, if someone makes a comment and you really love it, with respect, we're going to request that you not clap because that takes away from hearing all of the comments. Just kind of wave your hand like that. If someone makes a comment and you're not in agreement, we're just going to ask you just to kind of do your head like this. Because what I will not tolerate, and I'm going to take the responsibility, that's what the superintendent has charged me to do. We're not going to tolerate, because we have students here with their parents, and we're not going to accept or tolerate any behavior or any comment that's coming across as being offensive and derogatory. So with that, I'm going to read verbatim what the norms are. So because we really want to dedicate this time to the public to give you time to reflect and respond to the categories that are recommended to be in the final CCSD document, whatever that document may be. So please, the second norm is what the panelists just read to you. Don't leave here today saying, oh, that's what's going to be in the policy. We don't know yet. Wave your hand. Because once we finish having all of these public input meetings, we take your comments back to our Board of Trustees and the superintendent. Then they kind of tell us where we go from there. So this is giving the public an opportunity. Don't you love us for that? Now you can clap for that one. But before I start, I need to recognize three individuals. Mr. Carlos McDade, our district's general counsel. I've requested him to be, we wanted him to be here today. And you know, lawyers are busy. But so Then I want to recognize two individuals in the back, our translators. Really, this is a lot of work when you're processing. So I want to recognize Raquel back here and Miriam. And again, Kirsten, you, and the panel. Thank you. So let's get what... Okay. The expectations of the individuals today is to display behavior ensuring a safe and respectful learning environment in this very important meeting. Derogatory or offensive comments will not be allowed or tolerated. CCSD staff, I want CCSD staff to please stand, have been charged with maintaining order of the meeting. So any individual operating outside of those norms, Kirsten and I will call attention to that, and we will ask one of those staff members to kind of work with you to make sure that you are maintaining the environment that we have established. If you're signed up to speak, you receive a card. One card was green, and tell me if I'm right. You either got a green card, a pink card, or a purple card, correct? Okay. Let me tell you what that means. We have a structure, and the structure is this way. There's going to be three categories. One category of individuals who are opposed, that means you don't agree with any of this. Then there's going to be another category of individuals who are neutral or you're undecided. You're not quite sure where you are yet. And then there's a category of individuals who are in support of CCSD producing some type of document around gender diversity and gender identity. So the way that would work, we're going to allocate 30 minutes. And Brandon, when we get ready to start, I'm going to have you to time it so that we can make sure everybody has equitable time. So we will allocate 30 minutes to those individuals who oppose, who are against CCSD creating some type of written document, whether it's policy, regulation, or guidance document. So when we get ready to get to those of you who are opposed, that means you have that red or pinkish looking card. I'll say now it's time for those of you who are opposed to us doing anything, go to a mic, either one of, there's a mic here and a mic there, that's where Shannon and Chuck will assist you with your card, and you will give them your card, you will speak. Each speaker who is against CCSD doing something will have 2 minutes to speak. And then we'll just let everybody speak until 30 minutes is over. And here's the teacher in me. And I was a in elementary, middle school, high school, and I teach adults, and you all were the most challenging. When we say, guess what? Hurry. If you don't get a chance to speak today because you are against CCSD doing something, Kirsten and her wonderful staff created an online survey. You can go to the district's website, and we'll tell you about where that is afterwards. There are comment cards here, so you will still have an opportunity for your voice to be heard. Okay? You can clap for that one. So then, when the opposed group 30 minutes time is up, I will say, now those of you who are undecided or come up, and you will have 10 minutes, and the reason we've allocated 10 minutes, we looked at the number of cards this morning for the neutral or undecided, and that's the fewer group. So just, I represent being equitable. So please don't go out here and say she cheated. That's why, because we had fewer group. And if you're neutral or opposed, your card is purple. So when it's time for that group, I'll say the neutral or undecided, you're not quite sure, come up to one of these cards. You will have 2 minutes to speak, each individual, but when 10 minutes is up, I'm going to say 10 minutes is up, and we'll have to stop. But you too will have an opportunity to go to the district's website or complete. Then we will give 30 minutes to the last group of individuals, and that's the group who are in support of CCSD doing something. I'll say now it's time for those who are in support. You will line up and give Chuck or Shannon your individual who's in the support. But once the 30 minutes is up, we have to stop. But again, because what Chief Shearer and her staff have done, you have comment cards or surveys where you can still give your opinion. So do I need to clarify anything?
Sorry, I didn't put this on your list, Dr. PA, but I wanted to let everyone know we do have news media here today, and that we also are recording all of the public meetings, and we will be posting them on our website. So I wanted to give you a heads up on that.
So you're recording me too, Kirsten? Do I sound okay? Okay. So thank you, Kirsten. Thank you. And so an opportunity, as I said again, and I'll repeat it so we can get started. If you didn't have an opportunity in today's meeting to speak, remember comment cards, the online survey, and we do have additional public input meetings after this one, and that's on the district's website. The purpose of today's meeting is to give your input on those recommendations that the group shared, or recommendation on whether CCSD should have a written document, whether that's policy, regulation, or guideline. Again, we are not here to talk about what's right or wrong, whether gender diversity exists or not, whether they should not be allowed in school. We will ask CCSD staff to come to you, and I'm going to have to say stop it. Because that's not the purpose. The purpose is to reflect on the recommendation and whether you are in agreement, against, or not decided about CCSD having some type of document. So any question, translator, am I okay? You got perfect. So any questions, comments before we get started? Because those of you who have the card where you are opposed, you are against, and your color card is what color? Red or what, pinkish? We're going to have you to stand up, come to the mic now. So let me get you in. The timer will actually be on the screen here. So let's go. A pink card, you can come to either mic. There's a mic here or mic there.
Number one?
Yeah. And there's a number on your card. If you look on your card, you should see a number. And so where, oh, got it. So we will take the card, number on your card, any better than this. Chief Kirsten, good? Okay. So And then I'm thinking, Brandon, to make sure we do this, 2 minutes up for each speaker when they start, and then do you have another way to reflect the 30 minutes as well? I want to thank Mr. Brandon Moeller. Look at his face. He has an honest face. You can trust him with the timer. Okay, we are now.
Sara Ramirez. I have 5 kids from ages 8 to 17. I am against the new policy you want to implement on gender diversity. Like any other mother, I don't want my kids to be hurt. I don't want them to go through any emotional distress. If I am being accused of using hateful statements and being a bully when I am simply fighting for my rights, how are my kids going to be classified in their classroom because of their values and beliefs? As a citizen of the United States, I respect other people's choices and beliefs. But if they want to impose them on me, that is a violation of my rights. I have the freedom of speech. I have freedom of religion. Why are these rights being ignored in this new policy? I know my kids better than anyone. And I can tell you that not having privacy in bathrooms, in locker rooms at schools will bring anxiety to them. That force them to use pronouns other than the ones they know, and exposing them to gender ideologies curriculum will bring anxiety to them. Who will protect my kids at school? If you really want to create a safe and respectful learning environment, you have to base yourself on the understanding of each population's distinct needs, not just in the needs of one group. You also have to respect the ideas, beliefs, values, knowledge, language, and way of life of other groups. Remember, you will not be discriminating against adults, but children. I ask you to please provide us, parents, with the final draft of the policy to ensure that although my kids hold different beliefs and values, they will be protected as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Hi. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Erin Phillips. For the record, I think we need guidelines for our principals. So I think this is important and why we should be all a part of this working group and part of this discussion. I do think that the NRS is ambiguous in regards to public accommodation. And so until we have some more clarification on what the NRS means, that we should not be making a policy. I think that opens up the school district to being in a difficult position down the road. Sure that this policy notifies parents if they have a child that is transitioning at school, for example. Parents obviously are, we're looking at a group of students who do have a higher rate of suicide and depression, we know that. And so if you have a child who is transitioning at school, the parent needs to be notified, and that needs to be made sure that I think is in any kind of guideline that we bring parents into this conversation. Essentially, if there is a student that is going to be, in regards to overnight field trips, if there's a student that is going to be of a different biological sex in a overnight situation, rooming situation with a child, I think parents need to know who's going to be in the room with their child. I think parents should have the ability to protect their kids while they're at school if they believe that that is something that they need to do. So I think whatever happens in this policy or guidelines, I think it needs to protect parental rights first and foremost. And I think free speech is a real issue here. And so I think we've seen this in other states, and compelled speech is something that needs to be looked at when we look at a policy. You can't compel speech. It's against the First Amendment right of free speech. So thank you.
Okay, hello, my name is Carla Fajardo. I'm the mother of 2. I happen to be a registered nurse. And as I do more research, the more concerned I become with this issue. For one is the change in diagnosis in 2013. from gender identity disorder to gender dysphoria, huge change in definition that will help this movement and silence those who do not agree with it, because we will have no scholars to back it up. Second, last year, SBD 225 was adopted to protect these kids from bullying. It was adopted to keep bullies away. But the policy wants to move further into the minds of our kids. I would like to know on what basis will you be able to define this terminology when research is being silenced and there is not enough data to prove it, and when advocacy and government organizations have names such as ACLU, Planned Parenthood, the American Psychiatric Association, the World Health Organization, who all side with this ideology without enough evidence, no research, no pilot studies. Do I smell biased information here? How would your definitions and terminologies will provide a safe and respectful environment to those who believe gender identity does not pertain to feelings, but instead biology in the basis of the structure of DNA? I do not want my kids indoctrinated about gender identity. Please let me use my own definition and terminology on the issue, because no school district or government can take my parental rights over the children I conceive, I provide for, I care for when sick. Respected members, do you think I will hand them over without a fight because the scholars know best about gender identity and sexuality? Of course not. It will not be ethical in my part. Your policy is too vague and open to anything.
That we are commenting specifically on the recommendations, so please do try to limit your comments to your thoughts on the specific recommendations. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kimberly Foz, and I'm the mother of 4 children. I have to say, as I was pondering on this whole issue last night, I became extremely stressed. I started to wonder about the future of my children and how things were possibly going to change for them because of our Christian beliefs. This bill is trying to be passed to stop bullying, but it's quite the opposite. Let me read you all the definition of bullying. Bully is a verb to use superior strength or influence to intimidate someone or a group, typically to force him or her to do what one wants. Synonyms include persecute, oppress, tyrannize, browbeat, harass, torment, intimidate, strong-arm, dominate, etc. So by trying to force us to against our beliefs, we are being bullied ourselves. An article was released in the Las Vegas Review-Journal for the school year of 2017 to 2018, and many people chose to remove their children from schools. 35% of those parents took their children out of schools to be able to provide religious and moral education to their children, which was the largest reason parents removed their children from schools. Now, that tells me that because I'm a Christian, which many people nowadays frown upon, I truly want to protect them because their school is taking their rights to give them to others. If this bill becomes a mandatory part of curriculum and my children don't do or say the right thing according to others' beliefs, they will be reprimanded and punished. Now, my child's right to what they believe is no longer important to my children will have to face bullying from their peers, the school staff, right up to the actual school district itself for their beliefs. Where are my family's rights to attend school and be kept safe and respected? Do they no longer matter to everyone? By making this a mandatory part of curriculum and policy, my children will be forced to ignore their beliefs for the beliefs of others. Is history no longer being taught in schools? I will read a part of the First Amendment of the United States of America, which states, "The First Amendment to the United States Constitution prevents Congress from making any law respecting an establishment of religion, prohibiting the free exercise of religion, or abridging the freedom of speech." Now, if this prevents Congress from taking these rights from us?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Next person.
I will speak specifically about 2 things. I was going to read what I was going to say, but you were talking about these locker room issues. That's my biggest concern, that and the pronouns. What's going to happen to my children when my son goes into a locker room and there is a transgender child who is a boy or a girl, whatever? What's going to happen to my son? How will I have to explain it to him? These are points that I don't understand how I can teach him that it's okay for him to gaze at a nude body of a different person that is not something that is biological, that cannot be proven to be fact. The fact is that there's only male and female. How am I going to be able to explain to him this? I am not. Another thing is pronouns. This sounds a whole lot like you're going to be forcing us to have to accommodate to your point of view. I don't want my son to have to call a woman a he or a man a she. This is something that conflicts with my worldview, with my point of view. It is very conflicting. And I understand, and I am sure that my son and my daughter will be persecuted. They will be bullied because of this, because they are going to be taught that this is incorrect for me and for our worldview and for our perspective. How are they going to be treated in the real world when they go out there and they say to another person that what they are doing is incorrect in our point of view? Surely the school is not going to have any regulations in place then. It'll be too late. It will be too late because these policies don't seek for the safety of all children, only the safety of specific groups. We need to protect the individual child. We do not need to protect a specific group. That is the solution to this problem, is we need to protect all children, as the woman stated in the beginning. We do not need any of this to be specifically directed at a specific group. It will not work.
Hola, buenos días.
Hello, good morning.
Mi nombre es Gonzalo Lucas.
My name is Gonzalo Lucas.
Soy padre de 2 niños, uno de segundo grado.
I have 2 child. My oldest is in 2nd grade and the youngest is in 1st grade.
En un tiempo,
And
yo me sentí discriminado también.
there were times where I felt discriminated as well.
Y participé de muchas protestas.
And I participated in a lot of the reunions that you guys had
Porque quería
to
cambiar el
protest because I wanted to change the
mundo.
world.
Creí que todos deberían cambiar. Porque
I thought everybody had to change because they were wrong.
hasta un día donde
Until
entendí
finally,
que realmente el que debe cambiar es uno.
I understood that I cannot change the world. I am the one that has to
Yo
change.
no puedo cambiar lo que las compañías hacen.
I cannot change what companies do.
No puedo cambiar lo que ustedes piensan.
I cannot change what you think,
Pero puedo cambiar mi pensamiento.
but I can change what I
Puedo
believe.
enfrentar
And
la
I-
diversidad y respetarlos
And
a la
so
vez.
then I can respect all the diversity.
Hoy a mis hijos también han sufrido de acoso
My kids have suffered bullied as well
por las cosas que yo creo y que les he enseñado.
for
a
the
ustedes.
things that I believe and that I have taught them.
Entonces, si de alguna forma las leyes van a favorecer a algunos,
So if the laws are going to be in favor of just a small group,
entonces va a haber problemas,
then we're going to have a lot of
porque
issues
entonces serán perseguidos otros.
because then my kids are going to be bullied.
Entonces, yo no estoy de acuerdo.
So I oppose,
Y creo que no es correcto
and I don't think it's
que
right
solamente se les dé beneficios a uno
that just a small group gets a benefit
cuando se les van a estar quitando a otros.
when some of the rights are going to be taken from the other
Eso es
kids.
lo único que quiero decirles y gracias a todos.
That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Alida Mendez. I am a mother and an educator. As a mother, I won't allow you to take my children to indoctrinate them as you please with this new policy. As an educator, I cannot allow you to violate my students' rights. Your regulations are only protecting less than 10% of the student population. So what's going to happen to the other 90%? Who's going to protect them? You keep on saying that the district is committed to addressing the health and safety needs of all the students. Do you really mean all the students? Because from what I read, your policies are only advocating for a specific group. As an educator, I also read that in the CCSD policy 1140, which I have in my hands, it is stated that parents and school staff should engage in regular two-way meaningful communication. If this is the case, then why are you asking me as an educator not to disclose information that might reveal a student transgender status to others, including their own parents? You want to take the parents out of the picture. That doesn't make any sense. I encourage you to work in another policy that will protect everyone. Remove the work curriculum from these regulations, and don't punish innocent little ones for the sake of the few. Go ahead and protect everyone, but please do not use my children and my students as an excuse. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carrie Chappell. I'm a former CCSD special education teacher, and I'm also a mother of a 9th grade young girl. I oppose this for a couple of reasons. Number one, in the regards of the pronouns. As a special ed teacher, I taught the young kids. And at that age, they often had difficulty with he, she. You know, they'd get the boys calling the boys she and the girls he's. So if we throw in the mix more confusion, it's just going to make it harder for them. And I think that's wrong. We should not do that. As far as my daughter is concerned, she's a very timid young girl. I extremely am opposed of at that age her having to be exposed to naked boys in the bathrooms and in the locker rooms. What I would recommend, again, in special ed, if we had a student with special needs, had special bathroom needs, they went and used the bathroom in the nurse's lounge or the nurse's office. I don't see that being a problem. If they can't use the bathroom of their biological gender or the bathroom of their transgender choice, then they should be allowed to use the bathroom in the nurse's office or to go in the nurse's office to change out for PE. And also on field trips, as one of the other speakers mentioned, I'm greatly opposed if my daughter went on an overnight trip that she'd be sharing a room with a boy. Again, she's too young. I think any child is too young to be exposed to this, and I'm greatly opposed to this whole thing. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa Hardy, and I am a grandmother of grandchildren who will be someday attending Clark County School District. I am concerned for their future and these policies that are going to be implemented and that will affect their future, not only their future, but mine and the communities. Who knows where it can all expand to, just from starting right here in the Clark County School District. And I'm very opposed to the bathroom issues and the locker room issues. We are given laws, some that we can't avoid. One of them is called the law of gravity. We have to abide by laws. And when we are giving a certain genitalia, I have a difficult time accepting someone with a certain kind of genitalia going into the opposite room of what they should be going into. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Betty Cedillo, for the record. I am a mother of 2 beautiful children, a boy and a girl. We have met several times regarding this nonsense policy that wants to be implemented as bullying. In reality, this policy wants to protect only a group of transgender children. I ask you, who's going to be protecting my children if they are being bullied for their moral beliefs or if they call one of these kids by the wrong pronoun? Is there going to be a policy that will protect my children as well? Or again, it will only apply to a specific group? Upon research, I came across a privacy, parental notification, and free speech for public schools. I quote from West Virginia State of Education versus Burnett. Schools officials cannot command their students to accept or celebrate ideas, values, and beliefs regarding sexual orientation and gender identity. To do so, trans students will establish rights and open up schools to potential liability for infringing these rights. Bullying is not only affecting our children or the transgender community, it's a gruesome epidemic striking our nation. Let's not violate our first constitutional amendment rights. I've heard many times that we are misinformed. To me, it's very clear that, again, this policy would only apply to a specific group of people. What about my children? Like one of the ladies before me said, do they don't matter anymore? Allows parents to decide our children's education and moral beliefs. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, CCSD officials, parents, and guests. My name is Enrique Rivera. I'm a veteran, practicing healthcare professional, and a concerned community member and citizen, and I am against the formulation of a gender-diverse policy. I come before you today deeply troubled and saddened that it has come down to this: non-adults, children in this case, making adult and life-altering decisions at a very immature age. Who has given kids the authority to decide whether they're a boy or a girl, regardless of their biological gender? If my will lower the drinking age limit, gambling age limit, driving as well, we can extreme and frankly just dangerous. Why? Because kids are kids. We can also agree, and science corroborates this, that a teenager's brain, more specifically the frontal lobe, which is responsible for decision making, doesn't fully develop until about age 25. So while highly educated, allowing children to make such critical and serious decisions. Parents, officials, and teachers we're supposed to be protectors, guardians, and have been given the stewardship over our kids. How far down the rabbit hole do we need to go before we say enough is enough, no more? Not in my house, not in my community, and not in our schools. We as a community speak with one voice. We stand on the rock of truth, and this gender diverse policy is a symptom of the real problem, consequence of a godless generation. Thank you.
You know what? I want to apologize because I should have stopped that, but please just respect me. I should have stopped it earlier, but thank you anyway, because thus far it has been really great. Las Vegas strong. So I do apologize, but go on, next person.
Good morning. My name is Marta Mundo, and I am mother of 4, 2 of which are still students of CCSD. I have been attending meetings that deal with this topic for the last past 2 years. Today, I am here to let you know that I don't want you to implement a policy that intimidates my children into having to accept the ideology that is going to confuse and damage them mentally. In their innocence, a child whose mother is pregnant begins to ask if they will soon have a baby sister or a baby brother. And when they hold the baby in their hands, they instinctively accept their biological gender as something that is naturally part of life. Now that this child is older, this policy will impose him to go against what he knows to be right. This will cause a great sense of trauma and insensibility in the child, because you will be forcing him to adhere to the policy that is only looking to give a special privilege to a small group of students. In the article mentioned, definitions and terminology says to provide a safe, respectful, supportive, and inclusive learning environment for students. Who is going to respect my children? Who is going to create a safe environment for them? I don't think that is correct that for a student to be punished because of the decision or the desire of someone else. As a parent, I don't want you to take the role that belongs to me as a mother for my children. I gave birth to those kids. Therefore, I have the last say in how they are raised. I want what is best for my kids, and since this policy will undoubtedly harm them, I am here to tell you that I will not stop fighting for them. Thank you.
My name is Holly Weaver. I'm a former CCSD teacher, actually at Durango, and I'm a mother of 4 kids. My beautiful, smart, and funny baby sister, Christy, was gay and struggled with gender identity from a young age. She died last year of a heroin overdose. I am here with love for both sides, and I know this is very painful for many families involved. I'm also here to state that my belief is that changing pronouns will not change hearts. If we want our kids to feel safe in school, what needs to be taught is love and respect for all. I envision if this legislation passes, contentions will rise between families. Unfortunately, I imagine kids being even more cruel at school. Progress can begin in our homes. Lessons on love and respect can also be taught in the classroom. I am not naive enough to think that this will solve all problems, but I do believe solutions to most of the world's issues begin with love. Finally, it is a constitutional violation to enforce legislation that asks my kids to comply with policies that go against our core beliefs. Where is their safety and protection? Where is the respect for their backgrounds? We believe and have taught our kids that God created us as men and women so that we can live and grow on this earth as families. I believe that some feel, and I respect that some feel otherwise, and I will never tell you that you're wrong or feel that you're less than anyone else. I will always teach my kids that we are all sons and daughters of God, gay, straight, black, white, trans, etc. But my firm belief is that this legislation will not change hearts or behavior. This is important dialogue, and I hope we can come together and do what's best for all children.
Let's all clap for ourselves because that was very respectful, everyone. We love it. We have 10 minutes left. So if there's anyone who is in, 5 minutes, Brian? We have 5 minutes left. Oh, we have one more speaker. Oh, let's go. And since there's 5 minutes left, if there's anyone else who wants to speak in opposition, means you're not in support of CCSD developing some type of written documentation around gender diverse, gender identity, you will be equitable, and we're going to use the last 5 minutes for anyone else, even if you don't have a card. And that means you are not in support of this.
Dr. Pia, at this time, number 14 has not come up, so we're going to go to number 15.
Okay,
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Chuck.
Hi, good morning. My name is Jen Richards. I'm the mother to 4 kids, 3 which are in the Clark County School District right now. I know many people here hold very different beliefs, and I really applaud everybody for coming here today, no matter where you stand on this, to express these strong beliefs. It takes a lot of courage, so I applaud everyone. And I really thank the school district for holding these meetings to allow aunts, uncles, grandparents, whoever you may be, to express their opinions. We each, like I said, have sets of beliefs, and some people call this religion, others just call these beliefs and how they feel very strongly about. But this legislation legislates beliefs. That's exactly what it's doing, which is something we can't tolerate as a society. And we cannot tolerate, any sort of legislation that enforces beliefs. We can agree on math and science. We can agree that if you look at a cell in my body, it has 2 X chromosomes, and if you look at a cell in a man's body, it has XY. We can agree on that, but we can't agree that we can't teach our children a certain group's beliefs. We can't enforce that on them. This is immoral and it's unlawful. And then this legislation actually takes it a step further. It then infringes on their First Amendment rights, telling them they have to use certain pronouns. That is unlawful. That is unethical. We know that. And AB 225 is very vague. It not only legislates beliefs and infringes on First Amendment rights, but it paves a path for those who do not hold the same morals and beliefs and to be bullied by students and corrected by teachers. And we cannot create an environment where students are fearful of peacefully speaking about their beliefs and the things that they are taught due to that they are, I'm told that they are incorrect due to government legislation. Not science, not facts, but beliefs and morals made into laws by the school district. We need to remember and cherish the fact that respectful debate is healthy and necessary.
Beautiful parent, but time is up. Thank you. But we need to, Chief Shearer needs to remind us of one thing about the curriculum component.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify one thing because I know the state, I'm pretty sure the state regulation that was discussed earlier this week had the word curriculum in it. So I think that was potentially some of the confusion. I just wanted to make sure that we were all clear that we are not proposing curriculum. There's no mention of curriculum in the regulations, and I just want to make sure that we're all clear on that because I know that that is a concern for a lot of people. I would say anything related to that would be in, Brandon, do you mind going to the second page of the recommendations? The inclusive academic classroom environment says a final CCSD policy regulation guidance document could specify that the academic classroom environment shall be appropriate for and supportive of all students, including students who have diverse gender identities or expressions. So I just wanted to say that there would be no curriculum under these regulations. And so that's the state regulation. So we have no, we're the Clark County School District. We can only control the schools within the Clark County School District. The state had proposed regulation, that's the State Department of Education. So that's not our document, and we have no control over what the state does. So I would encourage you to talk to the State Department of Education if you have a concern about that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you so much. Let's give Chief Kirsten a hand, please. I want to take 10 seconds. I was so nervous this morning. I love Las Vegas. I want you to clap for yourself again because this is really This is a model of how all public input meetings should be. So thank you so much. Now, we're ready for our next group, and that will be the group where you are neutral or undecided, and we're going to ask you to line up here with Shannon on this side of the room, and that means you receive a purple card, correct? Purple, neutral, undecided, you're not sure yet. So if you want to speak, you receive the purple card, and Chuck find out what the concern is right there.
Hey, Dr. Moments within the 30 minutes, and if there's anybody that'd like to come up and add a comment, is the request from the audience.
Oh, we do have time left, Brandon? 2 minutes? Oh, wait a minute, but I took it away, though. So let's go. Tell you what, the undecided, if you don't mind staying there or sitting on this side, because I want to give it back. We have to model what's being equitable. So we're going to give the 2 minutes back, and if there's anyone else who is in opposition, but you didn't have a card, you're not in support of CCSD producing some type of document, whether it's policy, regulation, or guidance around gender diverse or gender identity, you can go to the mic where Chuck is, and we will honor the last 2 minutes of the 30-minute block. And take your time coming down because we haven't started the timer yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. PA.
Yeah. But now, if we only have 2 minutes left and we're giving each individual, we'll have to say one. Now, let me see if the team.
Together, it's one speaker.
But
it's just me.
So, one person speaking for all of that group?
What we have here now is we have 2 different groups. One speaker here and another speaker on this side.
Well, this is what I'm saying. If we only have 2 minutes left and we start, I'm sure my Las Vegas community is with me, so let me stand here. I'm going to split the 2 minutes. One. Say
I
is
believe
fair.
It's fine, she'll take it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Gracias. Mi nombre es Corina.
My name is Corina. Déjeme estar aquí.
Okay. Estoy aquí
I'm here
por todos los niños que
for all
están
the
siendo
kids
obligados
that
a
are being
participar en este tipo de
forced to
de
participate in this type of classes.
La señora llamó recomendación.
You guys call it as a recommendation, but I feel,
al igual que los otros padres,
as the other
que
parents,
es una imposición
that
a los niños.
this is being imposed to our kids.
Creo en los valores morales
I believe in the morals that we
que
teach our
Dios
kids,
estableció desde un
that God
principio.
has established since the beginning.
No en la nueva cultura que
Not in
quieren
the new
imponernos.
culture that is being imposed.
Con todo respeto,
With all respect,
me opongo
I oppose
y apelo
Sorry, guys.
Because as she's giving you, can you maybe have her, because we're hearing the translation in between.
Yep.
So it's not coming, the English part isn't coming out. Thank you, Miriam.
Okay, no worries.
Gracias.
Sorry about that, guys.
Okay.
Entonces, no me dé pedazos tan largos para que los pueda decir.
Okay. So, para que se frene esta ola de imposición y obligación,
I would like that this new regulation does not get approved.
hacia los niños del condado de Clark.
I don't want this to be taught to the Clark County school kids.
Solo pedimos que nos respeten
We would like respect as well
a lo que fue desde un principio,
to what it was from the beginning,
hombre y mujer,
man and a woman.
establecido hoy para siempre.
And it has been established since the day number 1.
Quiero saber quién va a proteger a mis hijos
I would like to know who is going to protect my children
de este tipo de imposición.
from this new thing that you guys want to impose.
Por favor, les pido que tengan en consideración al resto también, no solamente a la minoría.
I would like you please to include all the kids, not just the minority.
Que Dios los bendiga y nos ayude.
God bless all. Thank you.
Is that the end of the 30-minute block? Let's clap for the 30-minute block. Thank you. So now we're going to begin the purple card, those individuals who are, they're on this side with Shannon, and as we said at the beginning, we will allocate 10 minutes for that group, but each individual speaker will still have the 2-minute time for each individual speaker. So Brandon, tell me when we can say start. Okay, you may start, first speaker.
My name is Tracy Entz. I have 5 children that have gone through the Clark County School District, and now I'm a grandmother. And I applaud the school district for wanting to come up with a policy to protect all children. I, however, have some issues with the current policy that is being proposed. I do believe these children need special accommodations, but rather they should be dealt with on an individual basis rather than a sweeping statements that are not particular to their particular needs. For instance, I have a grandson who has ulcerative colitis, and it causes great problems for him while he's at school. So his parents met with the appropriate school officials. They determined a plan for him, and one of those is when he has urgency needs in the bathroom, he can get up and leave. And think of if that policy was for all children, the disruption that would occur in a classroom with people coming and going at all times. So rather than having one policy for the entire school district, I would suggest an individualized, specialized policy based on the individual needs of each child, whatever that might be. And this is not a unique concept. We do it all the time with IEPs, 504 policies, where we meet with children and their parents to find out what is best for them. We have remedial reading students. We don't ask all children to take remedial reading classes. We specialize it to their particular needs. We have gifted children. We don't ask all children to take gifted programs. We make that individualized to their particular needs. And so I would suggest that the best way to protect and take care of children is to make it a very personalized and individual policy rather than a sweeping policy that's been proposed. Thank you.
Sorry, I have a cute accessory today. I didn't want to stay in the back. Thanks. My name is Annalise Castor. I represent a group called Break Free CCSD. So we're a bunch of parents, administrators, teachers, and support staff who came together at the reorganization of the school district to really make sure that it created more autonomy at the school level. We really just feel like the best decisions can be at the school level, but we really appreciate that there's some things that have to be made at a larger district level too. We've ended up being, I feel like we've been able to be quite successful. We had an SOT training meeting that we did on Facebook where we were able to garnish 10,200 views as of today in just the Clark County School District. So if anyone fears that the SOT is not working, if you know anything about that, we are live and strong and it's going great. But this is the message that I have from the Break Free CCSD team. We at Break Free CCSD would like to share our thoughts on the structure of the new transgender policy. Break Free CCSD is well aware that the basic regulations are needed when it comes to the issues regarding gender identity. But if there was ever an issue best handled on a case-by-case basis as opposed to one-size-fits-all, this is that issue. We believe wholeheartedly that individual school communities are the most qualified to address such sensitive matters. School organizational teams have the insight needed to compassionately and appropriately decide the specifics at a school policy surrounding gender identity. Heavy central regulations of such an important issue is against the spirit of local school autonomy and against the spirit of AB 394. And the decentralization provided in the reorganization. We would urge decision makers to create a guidance document rather than a policy so that the school SOTs will have as much input as possible in drafting regulations and not to overprescribe. This issue is too critical to leave local school communities out of the loop. Thank you for giving us a chance to have our voices heard, and we encourage that whatever policies or things you're considering mandating to make a mandatory that they be reviewed at all SOT meetings in the month of January. So thank you so much.
I've kind of had a lot of what I was going to say already said. I am a mother of 5 children, grown children, and a grandmother of 3. Oh, my name is Joanne Smith. I'm also a substitute teacher in CCSD, and so I've had a little bit of experience with that. I primarily work in the middle school level, and I have had an experience with a kid that I just love that has transitioned from 6th grade from a girl to a boy, recently had his name changed to a male name. And I get that. I don't judge him. I'm fine with recognizing the names of these children. There is another little girl who came in in 6th grade and transitioned for a year and then changed her mind. She's now a girl again. And I think these children, just as has been said right before me, do need accommodations. Probably something like a 504 where the parents can be a part of the situation and making sure that the rights of these children are protected. However, I also believe that my granddaughters, the oldest of who is in kindergarten now, should have the right of privacy and respect when she goes to the restroom or in a locker room. She should not have to have her values directly violated by having to share it with someone of the opposite biological sex. I understand that's it gets complicated, but there are restrooms for both genders that I've noticed in the middle school where I primarily teach. And it just seems like that would be a simple solution, a little bit of compromise. I believe in compassion and love for everyone, and I hope that we can come up with a guideline that fits this for everyone.
Okay. Hi, good morning. My name is Clover Callis, and I'm a parent of a couple students here at CCSD. And I am not sure where I land on this. A couple of my concerns that I have as far as policy is I have a special needs daughter. She has autism and epilepsy, and so I can understand completely the idea of wanting your children to get their needs met at school, and our family works really, really hard on that. And so while I don't want to dismiss the idea that we want to get our kids' needs met, I think some of the policies that are concerning me here is that, for example, my daughter can't be around flashing lights, she can't be in the sun, there's a couple of things, but I wouldn't expect that the whole student population have to have those same accommodations as her, or like not go to a dance, not have lights at dances, those kinds of things. And so again, while I want to see everybody get their needs met, that is a concern for me, that the entire population is being asked essentially to be limited in what they're allowed to do. My secondary thing that I have is I have a niece who is gender fluid, and my son and her are the same age. They're both 14. And I hear them on the phone with each other. I hear them trying to work through these things. I hear them loving on each other. I hear them hanging up on each other. And so I think that my other major concern is that developmentally we're talking about kids here. And as these children are talking through these issues, trying to figure out how to love on each other, trying to figure out how to be accepting, are their opinions or things going to be seen as bullying when really we're just talking about kids trying to figure things out? So that's another major concern, that my niece is protected, but also my little mouthy 14-year-old Republican son is also protected because he has very, very different views from her. So as we're making policy, I'd like to see both of those kids protected, and in the current policy, I don't see that. I see one side. Thank you.
Yeah, I was fine. I'll go fast.
Wait a minute, I want to make sure, this is for my clarification. We're still on the neutral, not decided, so you're in line for that, correct? Perfect, okay. Oh, but it's time for one more person. Wait a minute, that's what you're saying. So ladies, it's time for one, we only have time for one more person. But since we have 2 minutes left, can we split? Maybe
Sure.
1 minute you, 1 minute? Perfect, okay.
Okay, my name is Melanie Wilkerson. I have 5 kids in the district. I also teach in the district. And my main concern, and I loved the people that spoke right before me, because I really believe that that might be the best solution, is to go more on a personal basis than a school-wide policy. I know that at the school I teach at, when we have different situations that we're dealing with, that as teachers, they pull us aside and they make us aware of whatever the situation is, that we're very cognizant and helpful to each individual student that has an issue, and that's worked well on our campus so far. I know that we have field trips, that's something I deal with a lot, and different things like that, and we take it on a case-by-case basis with love, and I just think that's the best way to do that.
Hi, my name is Christina Perry, and I took a purple card because I am not quite sure where I stand exactly on the policy side of this issue. But really, it seems to me that ultimately these things come down to personal choice. And when one group feels like their personal choice is being infringed upon, that's when the fists come up on either side, right? So we need to be able to agree to disagree on our individual beliefs, but do so in a way that is kind and respectful to both sides of whatever issue we're facing. Today we're facing, obviously, policies regarding transgender and all the things that go along those lines. But the problem really lies in, well, what do you do when you can't really compromise? For example, a lot of people have brought up, what do you do when you have an overnight trip and you're separating, okay, all of the boys are going to be over here in this area with the male teachers and all of the girls are over here with the female teachers. Now you have a transgender student. Where do they stay? You want them to be comfortable, but you don't want to do that at the expense of other students. I'm out of time. Anyway, I don't know if I trust Clark County School District to get a good policy, but if you do, you got to do it with both sides in mind. Yes, ma'am.
Let's give a round of applause for that group. Very respectful. So, Brandon, what I need to know is the full 10-minute block time up. So thank you so much. So now we're ready for our last group. And first, so because we want to make sure we have this organized, this is the group that's in support. And you receive the green card. Can you kind of hold your cards up so we'll know if we need to have two lines, some over here and some doesn't seem that way. So we're getting ready to start the 30-minute block for those who are in support. You just choose which mic you want to go to. Hold on to your card. Don't give your card up yet. You can go to Chuck's side or over here where Shannon is, but make sure you have your green card with you. There's a number on it. And I'm going to tell you, Chuck and Shannon, because you know the teacher is working in me, how we're going to do it. Because we're doing it by numbers, correct? So this is how we're going to do it. Because you have a mixture. All of you who have an even number, that means you have number 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, or 12. If you have 1, 3, 5, 13, you go over there.
I'm old too. Don't make me move.
Class, be quiet. So if you have an even number, you're with Shannon. That means you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. If you have an odd number, you're over here. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, etc. Then that word. Right. So Chuck and Shannon, the way we'll do it, we're not ready yet because Brandon hasn't given me the signal. Chuck will start, you have the ones, and then after Chuck, then Shannon. So Brandon, are we ready?
Then here. That's all the dancing I'm doing today.
Is there a song with it?
Thank you, Shannon. Wait just a second, and just a reminder, because this is the largest group. What's our signal if someone says something and you're in support? Because I know sometimes our emotions, you know, we get toward the end, but we got to still hold on to this. And if they say something you don't like, because this is the supporting group, so I know that's going to stir up some little bit of some emotions now. If they say something you don't like, you're going to do what? Just do this, or put your head down. We are not, where's the CCSD employees? Stand again so I can see where you are. If I have to go to one of them, they are going to come over to you because we're charged to make sure it is safe. Because I know when the supporting groups speak, some emotions may come up, and we are naturally may be tempted to say, no, please, this is so good, Las Vegas. This is so good. Let's keep it that way, because I want to remind you we do have students here. Okay, Brandon, are we ready to start? And you got your 30-minute block going. Okay, go.
This is on, okay.
CCSD. I was forced to leave school and be homeschooled because of the violence that I endured from students as a queer individual. Without continue to suffer in silence, I am just experience things as any other 15-year-old would. I transitioned when I was 11 years old in the 6th grade and went to school with everyone that knew me from before. As an 11-year-old, trying to change their name and pronouns and just get people to acknowledge your identity is a tremendous struggle. For most 6th graders, using the locker room can be scary enough, but it is even harder when you have to fight to even be allowed in. I was forced to use the nurse's bathroom at school, and I was forced to put my gym clothes in the counselor's office and change in the nurse's bathroom. I was told that this was the only option because there was no policy in place to allow me my basic rights. The problem Nevada law states that a person cannot be discriminated against because of their gender identity and must be allowed into facilities that match their gender. It's truly shameful and demoralizing things just because they believe that their values and beliefs have a greater importance than my well-being. I know that many of you here today are afraid. I know that many of you here today may feel that your rights are being taken away. I would first like to assure you that there is nothing to fear from gender diverse students. We are not predators, we just want to coexist. The creation of policy will help to make gender diverse students safer and not negatively impact any other students in any way. I am entitled to the same rights as any other student. This policy is about giving gender diverse students, is not about giving gender diverse students special treatment. It's about making sure that my rights are as equal as any other student. Thank you.
My name is Judy Bowen Reiner, and I moved from New York here in 1999. I am a post-op transsexual, and I'm 74 years old. During my lifetime, I have gone through a lot. In high school, of course, we were forced to take phys ed in the boys' room. And when I went away to college on a full scholarship, they let me know that I had to live in a boys' dormitory for a year. Well, I moved out the next day because I realized I was going to be killed. I grew up in a very violent time, the civil rights movement, the gay rights movement. I was part of the gay rights movement in New York City in 1970. I had a group called Transsexuals Anonymous. We all held jobs because we basically passed as female. Some of us had not had all surgery. I did all of my surgery at the age of 23, but I was really lucky. I had great parents. I had 4 brothers and 3 sisters. And even though we were from a religious background, everybody understood that I was different, and they understood. And I'm just happy to see that Clark County School District is coming on board and letting us all live our reality. Life is a learning process. We learn from each other. Whether you're gay, straight, bisexual, transgender, it doesn't really matter. We're all God's children. And my religion, and I have to touch on this because was really my salvation, because the day that I went into surgery, I was 24 years old, and I was alone. So I was okay mentally with going through the whole procedure. And I had to get onto a train and go to the hospital that day, but never in my mind have I ever lived anything but as a female. I've always been me. That's what a transsexual is. We know at a very early age that we are what we are, and there's nothing that can change that.
Is it still morning? Okay, good morning. Because reference, okay? Matthew chapter 25, with particularly verse 40, where Jesus says, "Inasmuch as you do it to the least of these members of my family, you do it to me." And I would appeal to all of us to treat one another as though each is the least that each deserves to be treated with love, and I believe that these policy suggestions do that. They do it for my sisters and brothers all over the world, regardless of what their gender orientation is. And I believe that those of us who may fear people who are different need to get out there and get to know people who are different.
Amen.
Because people who are different are wonderful. And they have lived wonderful, full lives. And they continue to do so. Bless them and bless each of you. Read that whole thing about Matthew and the judgment of the nations. It's kind of an interesting text.
Brandon, don't start the next timer. Just want to remind everyone, we're here to talk about the recommendations that's on the policy, and we want to represent being fair and equitable, but I want to do it in a respectful way because we so appreciate the public coming out, but we are talking about the recommendation, or you're giving comments whether you think CCSD should develop a final document. So thank you so much.
Raise it up a little bit. My pastor of Metropolitan. I'm a former veteran. I have 3 children. We served in the United States military in the Marine Corps as a gay man. Was in me being gay had nothing to do with me getting my job done. In fact, when we had conversations, sorry, greatest man I knew, and I had to chuckle in my mind. I walked because right. What I had made assumptions because when it was assumed to this policy. And that works both ways. Christ approached even the prostitute who was considered to be despised. Consider and clear up the assumptions, but there's a lot of fear.
And Reverend, I do understand, but I'm looking at the audience and I don't want to stir anything up.
Right.
So can
there's a lot of fear, and I think that your job is to clarify, understand, because it is about CCSD. It says without.
Let's clap. Allowed me to interrupt him, and he knew it was respect because we're gauging the audience. But if I got to say something, Chief Kirsten, and stop the timer, and we'll give it back to the public. We'll give the time back. All of your suggestions. Stop the 15 minutes too, Rodney, because we realize that the 30-minute block is going to be over before all of you get to speak. But when we get to the 15-minute times, when 15 minutes of this block is up, we're going to stop it and ask those of you who are left if you want to condense your time, reduce your time down to 1 minute so all of you can get a chance to speak, those of you who have a card. If you can tell me that now so we'll know. Okay, we'll let you know when we get to the 15-minute. Remember, we hear the suggestions about we need to clear up the assumptions. We know that. That's why Senate Bill 225 said we have to do training about gender diverse. That's where that comes in. So whatever the written document is, it doesn't matter. Let's say we don't have a written document, because remember, after these public input meetings, we take all of this back to the Board of Trustees, and that's not going to occur until January 2018. Then the trustees will let us know, along with the superintendent, this is what you need to do, or this is what you don't do. But given us the authority to do, to provide professional development, and our equity and diversity department and counseling department, we're already doing that. So thank you, and thank you for allowing me to interrupt in between. Okay, so let's start the 2-minute. Now, Rodney, do you have your, and so when we get down to where 15 minutes is up, we'll find out for the remainder of the group will you let us reduce your time down to 1 minute. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Smith. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I applaud CCSD and this committee today in protecting all of our children in our schools, including our gender diverse students. I've been a foster mom of 22 children, and I firmly believe that this policy will protect all the children in our schools and enhance the learning and ensure safe environment for all children despite their gender identity. I think it's our jobs as parents not to only protect our children, but to stand up for those children who are clearly discriminated against. No child should feel disenfranchised from their peers, and no child should commit suicide because they cannot live their true life, because they are not accepted in their schools, nor should they become dropouts. As a foster mom, I do believe that gender diverse children cause no harm to any of our children. And again, I applaud what Clark County School District is doing with these policies and the workshop. Thank you.
The working group. I have been as long as we've been in existence. I'm also the transgender program manager at the Gay and Lesbian Community Center of Southern Nevada. And you know, there are already trans and gender diverse students in schools, and they're already in the locker rooms, bathrooms, and athletic teams. Harming any other kids in any of those places. There are kids named Edward that go by nickname Eddie. There are girls named, you know, Cynthia that go by the nickname Cindy. So if we don't allow kids to use their preferred name, then they shouldn't be allowed to use their nicknames either if we're talking about kids using only what's on their birth certificate. I want to respond real quick to the biological issue that was brought up. There's lots of biological reasons for people being gender variant. You can look up Klinefelters, you can look up androgen insensitivity syndrome. There are lots of DNA reasons and biological reasons that people are the way that they are. So it has nothing to do with being a boy and a girl. In fact, everybody at one point when they're conceived is neonatally all the same. And we are who we are. We can't control who we are or how we develop. So I encourage you to look up your scientific facts because there is scientific proof for people that are born with gender variances. And no one's talking about how to raise their kids. Religious discrimination makes things hard. And transgender is not a choice. If a child can they then bully the students of that race in school because that's what they're taught at home? This is about, it's not about gender.
Hi, my name is Ty Weinert. I am a parent of a 6th grader and a 9th grader. I'm also a certified Our Whole Life sexual health educator, and I am here in support of all of the recommendations. I simply just want to say I recognize that the policy recommendations are not about any one person's belief system. It is clearly about the inclusion and diversity that creates a safe, welcoming environment that all students deserve. I am a proud mom, and I truly believe that it should be a district-wide policy or guideline and not left to the SOT, because there are assumptions when you talk about SOTs, and not all SOTs are created equal or equitable in the district. So I really do believe that it should be across the board, and this is really all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tristan Torres. Do you know against? How often do you have to worry about being the subject of discrimination? How does it affect your day-to-day life? Discrimination is the subject we're all discussing today, whether we acknowledge it or not. Clark County School District is acting on a very important decision that sends a message to their students and administrators about the future of discrimination involving LGBTQ students. There are going to be policy changes to accommodate or reject these vulnerable youth. We can educate our staff and students, or we can hold on to ignorance and stereotypes. We can lower the chances for LGBTQ youth to be bullied, or we can deny them protection. We can stand on the side of the Public Accommodations Act, or we can continue to be one of the worst school districts in the country. Either way, we're setting a precedent here that's going to affect current and future students, possibly for years to come. I'm part of a team that's working on legislation that was passed in Nevada on March 10th of this year. It's a law called AB 99, and if you haven't heard, it protects LGBTQ foster youth and also juvenile justice youth. The fact more likely to be the subjects of discrimination. If we can make policy changes for foster youth and JJ youth, why can't we do it for our students too? The Public Accommodations Act of Nevada in place. We can use it as a starting point to make changes that LGBTQ students deserve. School board trustees, you have two choices. You can make tomorrow a better day for LGBTQ students, or you can be the reason that they write their suicide notes. It's up to you.
Do I adjust it or no? Sorry, I'm little. Hello, I grew up here in Las Vegas. I've now worked for MGM Mirage Corporation for 15 years. We have an entire department dedicated to diversity and inclusion, which administers ongoing training of management and staff, which specifies what it entails to respect fellow employees, regardless of what your personal, religious, or cultural beliefs are. We have a very clear written policy with specific guidelines. This is necessary when you're bringing together people from different cultures and religions. As employees, we choose the name that we prefer that goes on our name tag. My HR record says Michelle, but I've gone by Shelley my entire life. For any other coworkers to call me or anybody else by something besides our preferred name would be considered harassment. That is what it's like in the real world, regardless of what your personal beliefs are. It would be considered a direct violation of our clear company policy, which is why that is necessary. This is a public school system. We are entrusted with preparing our youth for life and successful employment in a very diverse city and a very diverse world. Parents have the right to teach their own theologies and beliefs to their kids, but it needs to be made clear that their beliefs do not override the rights of others. Clark County School District would be doing a huge disservice to our students to not clearly demonstrate that. I've read the proposed policy line by line. I see it as clear guidance that would assist teachers, staff, and parents in navigating the how-to in demonstrating respect and support of our gender-diverse students. So I strongly urge you to not delay the implementation of this crucial and timely policy.
Now, we're now down to 15 minutes, so for those of you who are remaining to speak in support, are you okay with us limiting your individual time to 1 minute each? Then therefore, all of you who are standing will have an opportunity to speak? So, okay, so Brandon, Rodney, we'll go down to 1 minute each, and I think Shannon, are we over here? Perfect.
Hello, my name is Josh Miller. I'm a father of a 7-year-old, a product of the district, and I've been very involved with the district in public education around anti-bullying efforts. I fully support these recommendations. There absolutely needs to be written policy. Some have suggested a case-by-case policy. Unfortunately, we need consistency, and we need to provide our teachers and administrators with the tools, resources, and guidelines that they need. Too many instances where I've seen specific instances on school sites where they didn't have these tools and they didn't follow because there were no guidelines. And the result is tragedy. Our kids' lives are at stake.
Hi,
I graduated from CCSD in 2008. I now teach courses at UNLV about juvenile delinquency and corrections. My dissertation is actually on juvenile victimization trends, looking at bullying through the NCVS data set. When an individual is targeted for their gender identity, it actually increases the likelihood of them being cyber victimized 4% or 4 times higher than the general population. Indirect bullying, 5 times greater likelihood, and directly bullied, 9 times greater likelihood. The reason why we need a cohesive policy and not an individualized policy is so that there is clearly defined guidelines that allow individuals to be diverse within the schools. And diversity truly affects the trajectory of the students, and by not allowing your children to experience diverse populations, you actually do them a disservice to where they can't work with certain populations in the future, and that affects their earnings per capita every year until they retire. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Elise. I'm a graduate of CCSD. Elise isn't the name on my birth certificate or my driver's license, and I've gone by it since 3rd grade. Nobody's ever accused me of violating their right to free speech by asking them to call me Elise and not my first name. How long will we let young people suffer because of our intolerance? Regardless of belief, we are supposed to be living in a country where people are given the right to a safe space to learn. We have the responsibility to keep our youth in school, and part of that responsibility is ensuring our schools offer inclusivity for every student. That's all.
Hi, my name is Kent Roberts, and I am the principal of a high school in Clark County School District, and it's my job to protect all the students at my school. And so, you know, we deal with this issue over and over again. As a principal and administrator, we need you guys to set a policy that at the very least implements a process for how we go about this. I try to be very respectful to both sides because I know this is an emotional issue, but it's very hard to make decisions when we don't have clear policy to fall back on. And so I would urge you to, you know, take it slow, spend a lot of time on it, but make sure that we have something that we can fall back on at the building level, because we're all kind of just figuring it out as we go. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Wendy Kraft, and I am a mother of 3 young women in their 20s, one in her 30s. The youngest, who's now 24, suffered the repercussions of being bullied incessantly in Clark County Middle School. It had nothing to do with her sexuality, but it went on for years. Although the staff tried to help, it still has affected her, although she is a great woman. In my other life, I am the owner of a funeral home, and I would like to say that I am begging Clark County to implement this, as seeing dozens of suicides of young people because they can't live authentic lives. I think it's more important that we don't hide our differences, but we teach our differences. Thank you.
Chief PA, members of the panel, at this time, person number 13 is not present, so we're going to move to 15. Thank you.
My name is Emma Schwarzman, and I'm a social work graduate student at UNLV in support of the policy. I was quite active during the 27 Nevada legislative session. On one occasion, a group of social work students from UNLV, myself included, drove up to Carson to lobby on behalf of 3 bills related to LGBT population, 2 of which passed. Furthermore, Senate Bill 225, sponsored by both senators and assembly people, also passed, requiring the State Board of Education to develop a policy for transgender students and students with disabilities through the Safe and Respectful Schools Law. I will not stop advocating for groups that are excluded because no one person has the right to tell someone else that they do not belong where they are. To be a competent professional social worker, I understand one has to be culturally competent and willing to advocate for individuals or groups that are excluded from major policy practices. So I fully realize the importance of adopting a policy about gender diversity to help students and staff members avoid hurtful language and could be considered bullying. Thank you.
You made it.
My name is Wesley Yule. I'm speaking as a CCSD parent. Due to time constraints, I'm not going to address any of the First Amendment red herrings I've heard today. I'm not going to squabble over existing state law that's already there. Instead, I'm just going to tell you a story. My third grader, I picked him up from school and we got into a conversation. He told me that he believes he's going to school with another student who is transgender. I asked him if that bothered him and he said, "Why would it bother me? It has nothing to do with me." Thank you.
Hi, I'm Heather Howell. I'm a heterosexual cisgender woman, a mother, a wife, an adjunct professor, a Christian, and an ally. I think it's really important here that when we talk about these policies, we get less involved in the beliefs and the moral background that we can squabble over, and more involved in talking about the safety of our children, all children. And that's already in the mission statement of Clark County, Clark County School District. So it's very unfortunate that we have to be talking about another policy, but we do, because the statistics are out there. 60% of LGBT youth in school feel unsafe because of their sexual orientation. 28% have been bullied in bathrooms. 32% have been bullied in gym classes. I could read you this whole page of statistics, but it's out there that we need an additional policy in order to protect these students.
Hello, I'm Joseph Marchese. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm a victim of most of these policies not being in set. When I was sexually assaulted, all that was done was a peace treaty. A peace treaty will not prevent the men to follow me into the unisex or nurses or dean's offices to follow me into the unisex bathrooms that I was forced into, because there are no policies saying that I can use the men's bathroom. I should have the rights as every other man in this school. Thank you.
How much time do we have? We have 6 minutes left in the support group. So if there's anyone who didn't get a card, to remain equitable, if you want to line up, we do have 6 minutes left, and because of this 6 minutes only, each one of you will have 1 minute. So, oh, and if you've already spoken, thank you, Shannon, we can't allow you to speak again if you've already spoken. Okay, anyone else? Okay, Brandon, start the timer.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Wacholtz. Wherever you just went, that was absolutely heartbreaking. The fact that any student has to endure that ever, there you are, that is just wrong. And the fact that the school district did not have the policies in place, sorry, that just really hurt me, because I am also a victim of sexual assault, not because of my gender, well, actually a little bit because of my gender, but the fact that that specifically happened due to the fact that there are no policies in place. And the principal who spoke and talked about how having these policies in place does help them to be able to individually enforce this when these things happen. These are children. This is not about religion. This is not about taking away people's freedoms. This is about granting people equal rights and the ability to go to school and conversation because to hurt.
Hi there. Parent of a little one at an elementary school. I just have a story to say. I was born in South Africa, and back in '68, but there was an incident where my family took us to a beach back then, and back in the days of the apartheid. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with the apartheid. I went to this beach, got out of the vehicle, and my parents quickly rounded us up and said, "Hey, come on, let's get back into the car." And we're like, why? And up to this day, I remember a sign that was posted on the beach that said, and please don't, I'm not discriminating, but it said a certain race color. And I don't became quite of an adult. You know, place. I'm no advocate or anything, and I'm sorry, but just wanted to say. No, it's okay. Okay.
How you doing? My name is Jacob Rolston, and I'm a product of the CCSD school district. I graduated in 2013, and I am a victim of the bathroom policies. I had not come out yet as transgender to the administrators, and I was confronted by the assistant principal, told that I was not allowed to use a male bathroom when I hadn't. And she told me that I was going to get one warning, and if I used the male bathroom again, which I still hadn't, I was going to be suspended and had to have a parent-teacher conference with the administrators. I didn't use the bathroom for the rest of the school year until I slipped up and used the women's bathroom, and an administrator came back to me again and said that I had used the wrong bathroom, and I do think that policies need to be enacted to protect students and their abilities to use the restroom and afford them the ability to have basic human rights. Thank you.
Hi, my name is AJ Huth, and I am the Youth Services Manager at the Gay and Lesbian Community Center of Southern Nevada. And I am glad that we're looking at CCSD for doing this and taking this on. And I can tell you right now that I work with a lot of young people that go to various different high schools. And it's kind of, right now, it's kind of like a lottery. Some schools have good policies in place, and they have schools don't have any policies in place, and the kids have a horrible experience at school, which forces them into homeschooling or dropping. To have the whole of Clark County have that from happening, a lottery of whether or not their school is going to be safe. So thank you.
Hello again. I didn't get to finish my statement. I didn't get to address one of the topics that was discussed about being marginalized, how we're looking at a small group of individuals that's indicating policy for the larger collective. But one of the things that we have to understand is that that marginalized population, affecting their trajectory is always going to be important, because every small group, no matter how small, is necessary. And we have to look at these vulnerable populations to assist the whole. When we look at the state of civil liberties in the nation, we always have to look at the most vulnerable populations. That's why we look at prisoners. We look at these individuals and see how we treat them. How do you treat the weakest in society is indicative of how you're going to treat everyone throughout the rest of your life. It is important to understand that we can have an effect on these marginalized groups so that they won't be so marginalized, they won't be so vulnerable, because we've all been vulnerable at some point, and we have to acknowledge that.
Time is up. First of all, give yourselves a round of applause. And we're going to acknowledge and thank some more individuals, then I'll turn it over to Chief Kirsten to summarize and kind of end our session today. But I want to explain especially why this young man was given a second chance, because I don't want anybody to go out here and say that we weren't fair. He was in the group that we had to cut the time down to 1 minute. And because we had so much time left for the supporting group and not many people came up, we allowed him his other 1 minute. But now if we had had a whole line of individuals and his 1 minute, giving him that other minute, was going to take away from others who had not spoken, the answer would have been what? No. Okay, so I just want to put that on the record. That's why. So group, you okay with that? Everybody didn't say they was okay. Okay, perfect. At the end of the day, what our goal was, and I think we have accomplished it for this first public input meeting, it was to give the public an opportunity to reflect and see and respond on the recommendation. And remember, when you go home and talk about this to individuals, we have not developed a policy yet. This is only the recommendation of what could be, what the group have decided that we feel should be, not decided, we voted, what we feel should be in whatever Clark County School District final document may be, whether it's policy, regulation, or guidance document. So on that note, I would like to thank you as a community again. Let's thank our president of the School Board of Trustees, President Deanna Wright. Let's thank Carlos McDade for leaving his legal office from the district to assist all district staff who was charged to make sure we maintain a safe environment. The gender diverse work group, I think you all should stand so the community would know if you're here. Please stand. And I've had the pleasure to work with Chief Kirsten Shearer, our communications officer, and I am Chief Greta PA, who works with all of the wonderful departments that oversee civil rights and diversity and stuff like that. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to Kirsten.
Can we have when Dr. So thank you. I'm just going to very quickly, Brandon, do you mind pulling up ccsd.net/gender-diverse? I just very quickly want to give you all next steps, although Dr. PA talked to you about some of it. I would encourage everyone in the room, if you haven't already, take our survey. It is at ccsd.net/gender-diverse. Tell your friends about it. We want as many people in the community to participate as possible. And also, if you're curious about some of the documents that the working group looked at when we were formulating the recommendations, you can see everything that we read and discussed on that website. And you can also see the recommendations themselves posted. I wanted to give everyone a heads up. If you spoke today, we are going to give preference to people who haven't yet had an opportunity to speak.